Is Florida State the worst preseason top 10 team we've ever seen? Look, jog my memory, folks, down in the YouTube comments, because this thing is not a dumpster fire, because that implies that it's contained to an area. This is a grease fire. There's grease all over the counter. The fire's going everywhere. Everything is a disaster. 2024 is over for the Noles. They still had some hope. Technically, going into this game, they had a couple of ACC losses, but hey, what if you won out? What if you went 9-3, could have a respectable season? It's time to move on. It's time to move on, as I said earlier this week, from DJ Uiagalelei. Oh my gosh, he started the game 5 of 6 passing for 7 yards and an interception. Look, it's not just that his numbers are bad. It's not just that they can't push the ball down the field. It's not just that they can't run the football. It's that the offensive play calling tells me very clearly they're seeing what we're all seeing. They don't trust DJU. They've got no faith, none, in his ability. They look like they are managing a backup true freshman quarterback who's been sprung into action because the starter got hurt. It's screen passes and sprint outs and defined reads. I mean, they've got no faith. And guess what? I don't know that they should. In the first quarter, they did not, until he threw an interception, attempt to pass beyond the line of scrimmage. That's incredible. That's incredible. You got a former 5-star quarterback, and what do you know? You've got no ability to push the ball down the field. This is a full-fledged disaster season for Florida State. I'm sure plenty of people in the comments will say that Mike Norvell should be on the hot seat. I regret to inform you, if that's something that you actually want, he's not going to be, because he's got a big contract extension. He's going to be there. But this needs to be a reset. This needs to be there is no sense, and I mean no sense whatsoever, in putting DJ Uiagalelei out there at quarterback next week, or the week after, or the week after that. There's no logic to it. You thought he was going to be a guy who could come in and help you win. Guess what? That's clearly not the case. And the rest of the team is also a complete and utter mess. But there's no reason to have DJ out there. I cannot understand why they would do that. And look, I understood it going into this game because he was your starter, but now you're building for 2025. 2024 is over. You have to look ahead to next year. And Mike Norvell, clearly a good football coach. He went 13-0 last year. I'm not sitting here saying he's not a good football coach. I'm saying he has done a horrible job coaching this team. When you watch Florida State, it's a terrible watch. It is a terrible watch because they can't push the ball down the field. They can't run the football. Listen to this. Against Memphis, who I'm going to talk about in just a moment, 24 carries. This includes sack yards for 37 yards, 1.5 yards a carry. I mean, huh? What happened to Florida State? What happened to having one of the best rosters in the ACC? They don't even have the best roster in the American Athletic Conference. I mean, my goodness. This is twice at home that Florida State has been worked in the trenches. This is twice at home that Florida State has lost to a team that they should be able to beat. And they are just a complete and utter mess. There are cultural issues in there. I'm saying this as an outsider based on what I see on TV. I'm not reporting something from the inside here. When I see a screen pass, an RPO screen, and the wide receiver stands there to watch the defensive back go by and almost take a pick to the house, you got a problem. You got a problem. There are a lot of problems in that Florida State locker room, and they've lost 4 straight football games. I don't know when they're going to win again. I really don't. Florida State schedule, they play Cal at home next week. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, Cal's been a better football team. They play at SMU. Look, neither one of those teams has been wildly impressive to start. Clemson, at Duke, at Miami, North Carolina, at Notre Dame, Charleston Southern, and host Florida. How many games does Florida State win? Serious question. How many ACC games are they going to win? They're 0-2 in league play right now. It is just a complete and utter mess down there in Tallahassee. It is scrap it. There is nothing. Siri. No, I didn't ask for that, Siri. Just you quiet down for now. There is nothing about this Florida State team that should give you optimism about this season. They can't complete a pass. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They're sloppy. They commit penalties. I mean, turnovers. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for Florida State. Let's flip over and talk about Memphis. So UNLV, I want to shout out the Rebels because they went to Kansas City and they, in a hostile crowd, boy, did you see Matthew Sluka running around on that Jayhawks defense? I tell you what, they're 2-0 against the Big 12. They've still got a couple more Power 4 games on the schedule. You better watch out if you're playing the Rebels. That's a G5 contender. So too is Memphis. Thought this about the Tigers coming into this season. They're off to a 3-0 start. Ryan Silverfield has done a heck of a job. And he has clearly got a team led by quarterback Seth Hennigan that can go in and win anywhere on their schedule. Because I think that for the Tigers, they've got a legitimate shot. Being in the American, they're one of the favorites to win that conference. Their ability to get into the college football playoff is very real. You've got a Power 4 win on the road. You play at UTSA. You play at Tulane. You play at South Florida. Those games are going to define Memphis' season. But I tell you what, this game against Florida State, they were better from the jump. They were the significantly better football team. They didn't even run the ball well in this game, but they forced turnovers. They didn't let Florida State do anything. They were dominant in the trenches. Seth Hennigan, 25 of 38, 272, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I think Memphis is absolutely for real as a G5 playoff contender because their schedule is not easy. One of the reasons I didn't pick them as my preseason playoff team was I thought they were going to lose this game to Florida State. Lo and behold, they did not because they're much better than FSU. And their schedule at UTSA, at Tulane, that's not an easy way to go. But I tell you what, if you can go into Tallahassee and win, there's no reason you can't go to South Florida, UTSA, and Tulane and go 2-1 because that's the thing. You don't have to win all 3 of those games. You don't have to be undefeated. You're not trying to get into the playoff like Liberty last year coming out of Conference USA. Memphis is trying to get into the playoff as the American Athletic Conference champion, potentially. That's going to be a tough battle. But that's a schedule that if you have one loss after the regular season and you go win the conference championship, I'd be hard-pressed to find a G5 team, barring Boise State being a one-loss conference champion, and they have to play UNLV. So, and Boise State also has to play Fresno State. They've also got to play Oregon State and Washington State. I can make the case pretty easily that Boise State has got the tougher schedule ahead to try to be the G5 playoff team because Memphis does not have a slew of Power 4 games remaining. They've got their Power 4 win. They did it in dominant fashion, so they're going to get a lot of credit for that. But Boise State's got a tougher schedule, and it might come down to who has one loss versus who has 2 losses. And I was really impressed with Memphis. The way they won in the trenches, they could run on 3rd and 4th and short. They could stop Florida State from getting any sort of push. I was thoroughly impressed with the Tigers. I think they have done a really, really good job. They've got the ability to go make the college football playoff. And boy, if they do at the end of the year, we're going to look back and say this was kind of a springboard game. This was the moment where they gave themselves and the committee the confidence in Memphis to go out, win the football games that they need to, and get themselves in the college football playoff. But the G5 playoff hunt, boy, it's spicy. It's spicy. Tulane looks really good. They're playing Oklahoma as I record this reaction show. Memphis, of course, looks good. I was talking about. Boise State is in there. UNLV is in there. A lot of teams vying for that G5 conference championship playoff spot and might come down to conference championship weekend. Still more to get to. Michigan and Mizzou, well, they won. They won. But what do we do with them after these wins, which were, they were fine. They were solid. That's coming up next.